Aquava, y'all. So we are waiting for fake white Jew Mark Zuckerberg to build the audience. So build that audience, fake white Jew Mark Zuckerberg. So me and my comrade here, Jesse, can talk about what's been going on with the African 4 teenagers that kidnapped and tortured that cave beast, male Saxon, toilet seat complexion individual, saltine Americano in Chicago. So we're gonna wait till both of your ears are not in the video, and I already trained you on this. Okay. So you gotta keep your white person trained, y'all. Right. I told this motherfucker keep his. Okay. All right, y'all. So it's building. Uhuru, y'all. Where y'all checking in on? You checking into the white man's plantation? You checking into the white man's gas station? You checking into the white man's mall? Are you checking into the white man's restaurant? Are you working at McDonald's? Are you working at Burger King? Are you working at Taco Bell? Where are you working at for the white man right now that you checking in? Hashtag here when you are here. Share with your girlfriends. Share with your white friends. Share on your Facebook wall. Don't worry. If this gets banned and blocked, only I will get banned, okay? Not you. So share it, okay? Share this conversation, struggle, this thing. Okay, so I'll let you know when the 10 minutes start. So this is just us waiting for everybody to come in. And we're going to make this talk really short because we got things to do. We have a plenary to go to and things of that nature. So let's talk about it. What's up, Ghazi? Uhuru Keith, Uhuru Tia, Uhuru Justivia, Uhuru Najib. You back and ready to attack. So we're just gonna wait for the views. So when these views hit 100, we gonna let it rock. Okay, we gonna let it rock. Thank you for the likes and hearts and the shares, and that's what we looking for, you know. So it's hit 100. Let's keep it at 100. Let's keep it up. We're going to talk about this male Saxon getting his ass beat in the toilet. What was it, toilet? In the bathtub. You know, they say he was disabled, but you know. Oop, that's going to have to go off. Hold on. Do you have your phone? Yeah. Okay, give it to Fasia. All right, y'all. We here. We at 100. Let's go. All right, Fasia, you ready? You got the time?
Yes.
Uhuru. Okay, so keep both ears in the video.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Set. Aquava, y'all. So, Uhuru, my name is Ghazi Kudzo, and I am a leader in the African People's Socialist Party. And this over here, this male Saxon, toilet seat complexion individual, is actually my comrade. Oh my God, crazy, right? He's my comrade, and his name is?
Jesse.
And he is?
National Chair of Uhuru Solidarity Movement.
Uhuru. So Jesse, have you heard some of my people kidnapped one of your people, put him in a tub and beat him up a little bit? You know, they scraped him up a little bit, tied him, went on live stream and stuff about it. Have you heard about it?
I did. I heard about it.
Crazy, right? But actually it's not so crazy since, you know, your people built an entire capitalist, imperialist society on top of my people. You know, you want to talk about kidnapping and torture. Can we talk about the almost 700 years of kidnapping and torture of African people? The reason why I'm here speaking English in this fluent white girl tongue right now, is because my people, was kidnapped and tortured and was put into this system, okay? So if you want to talk about kidnapping and torture, then you need to talk about what built the United States of America, which was kidnapping and torturing, okay? And the torturing that goes on right now in America. When we have to watch television and see our children being murdered in the streets, being murdered in the playgrounds, being murdered in beds, getting their water poisoned, having their daddies and mommies pushed into these mass incarceration prisons, which is just, you know, slavery 2.0, that's torture, okay? When you push a people and you take our resources away, our gold, our minerals, our diamonds, our lands away, and then force us to be, you know, submissive to you just to get a welfare motherfucking check, okay? That is torture. When we have to fight amongst each other just to live, when we have to rob each other just to live, just to eat, that's what you call torture, okay? So this whole moral equivalency that the colonial media, when I say colonial media, I mean cracker media, white media, imperialist media, white power media, capitalist media, that's what we're talking about, right, Jesse?
Yes.
And tell the people why is the colonized people and the colonizer people not equal in this situation? Because what they're trying to depict is these 4 African teenagers are just bad, horrible people, and this innocent white man. There's no such thing as an innocent white man, Jesse. Can you tell that to the people?
Yes, I mean, every dream and aspiration of every white person comes at the expense of every African person in this country and on this planet. We are a colonizer population. We live on the backs of African people. So when an African person whose backs we sit on rises up and tries to push us off, that is not the same. You cannot judge that with the same moral compass as you would the behavior of the one who's been lynching and murdering and raping African people for hundreds of years.
Exactly, Jesse. Exactly. And then this whole depiction of, oh, but he was mentally ill. He was mentally ill. Colonizers can be mentally ill and you're still a freaking colonizer. And I don't really take mental illness or disabilities of white people very seriously because you know white people, they sneeze twice and all of a sudden they mentally ill and they got prescription drugs and shit and they on Jenny Craig and Oprah and shit talking about what they survived and shit. So I don't even believe that. If you want to talk about mental illness, talk about African people who don't know where we come from, don't know our land, don't know our language, don't have access to our own resources. Talk about that, okay? No one on this planet is more mentally abused than African colonized people who are on the bottom of the pedestal of this entire thing you call capitalism, this entire thing that you call the white nations, what gives wealth to Europe, what gives wealth to Australia, Canada, and America. Okay, you want to talk about mental illness. Then let's talk about that. Because white people don't have mental illness when it comes compared to an African. When it comes compared to an African who has to live a submissive, subhuman life to white imperialism every freaking day. When we can't even walk down these streets without thinking, is everything in place before I get stopped by a police officer? When we see lights or hear sirens or anything, our heart races, our heart stops. This is why we have high blood pressure. This is why we have so many mental illnesses in the African community, okay? Can you talk something about this mental illness shit with white people?
I mean, if there are mentally challenged or disabled white people who are getting fucked over on this pedestal of the oppression of African people, it's not African teenagers that are responsible for that. It's this system. It's capitalism. It's colonialism. The same parasitic, vicious, violent, blood-sucking, dehumanizing system that has been causing death and destruction for the majority of the people on the planet. That's what, as an offshoot of that, white mentally challenged people and disabled people will have no social institutions that are there to protect them or to, assist them in their well-being. So the responsibility is to be put at the foot of the U.S. government. If you're pissed off about any of what happened in that video, you should not point the finger at poor, powerless, impoverished, terrorized African teenagers, the real victims of torture. You should point the finger at the U.S. government and the system.
Exactly. And to anyone that wants to, put down these 4 African teenagers or talk shit about these 4 African teenagers, because I see a lot of black people talking shit about these 4 African teenagers, saying, oh, why they're doing this, why they're doing that. These are not people that represent us and all this other kind of stuff. Sorry. What we should really be saying is, where are their leaders? Where are their leaders? Where are the African teenagers and African people who are upset and sick and tired of seeing our people being murdered every day? Where are our leaders? They were assassinated by the U.S. government. Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, all of these are people that were assassinated. Huey P. Newton, assassinated. The assassination attempts of Assata Shakur that pushed her into Cuba and detached her away from her African people as a leader, as an African fierce woman liberation leader, okay? That is who is guilty of us not having any direction. So the anger is just. Them attacking this random white man, yeah, there's contradictions in that, but the reason why that contradiction is there because there is no African revolutionary leadership that is present in the faces of these young Africans in Chicago because they murdered Fred Hampton. They murdered the leaders of the Black Panther Party. They murdered revolutionary leaders that could have shown these Africans the way to build black power. But instead they're unleashing their anger in different ways. But guess what I have to say about those 4 Africans that did that to that white man? I'd rather see a white man in that tub than an African woman. I'd rather see a white man in that tub than an African man. And you know what? With the poor working class of Africans in Chicago, your aim is getting better. That's a message from the chairman. The chairman says, the chairman Omali Yeshitela, you're a real leader for African liberation. They murdered a lot of us, but they didn't murder our true leader, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And he says, a message to the poor working class African people in Chicago. He says, your aim is getting better. Now, if you want to perfect that aim, you want to come to our BIB Black is Back convention on the 14th, which will be in DC, and you can go to blackisbackcoalition.org to learn more about that. Jesse, can you tell them how every white person is connected to the state? Because some people are saying this is an innocent white man and he wasn't a police officer.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of white people in this country, we carried out the murder, the lynchings of African people before the police. The police weren't even necessary. For over 100 years, thousands of African bodies hanging from trees at the hands of white people. Regular white people, poor, working class, ordinary, run-of-the-mill white people. We did that. So not only did we function as the state because we sat on their backs, we got rich off their suffering and their labor and their resources, but once the police was eventually formed, we have been complicit.
Tell it.
We have been totally complicit. And in unity with what the police
donating
do.
millions of dollars to police officers that murder African children.
Exactly.
You think that goes unnoticed? You think we're just going to sit back and let that happen? No. And if you want to talk about kidnapping and torture, you need to talk about Home Square, which is a secret undercover prison in the middle of Chicago that is a torture camp, and that when people go in there, they do not come out. Tell them about Home Square, Jesse.
Home Square is an unmarked warehouse in Chicago that the Chicago police have kidnapped and disappeared 6,000 African people over the past 5 years, taking them into this warehouse.
Where is Obama coming up and being sick and tired about that? Why isn't Obama making statements about that? What about the African teenager that was molested and raped with a wire hanger by a white man and on December 19th was just let out with a plea bargain? What about him? What about that? You want to talk about torture. You want to talk about the white man in New York in the 90s who kidnapped African women, sex workers, put them in his basement, and he would kill one of them, blend them up, and feed them to each other. You want to talk about torture. So I'm sorry, but white people, until you overturn the contradiction of colonialism, you will never be seen as human. You will never be treated as human until you free African and colonized people around the world. You want to talk about the innocence of white mentally ill people? How about those innocent white mentally ill men that sign up to join the military, go into Afghanistan, murder children, rape children, cut their heads off, take pictures of them raping children and women? What about those innocent mentally ill white men? What about those mentally ill white men in the military that raped an African woman who was also in the military, poured acid on her vagina, and stuffed her into a barrel? You want to talk about mentally illness? White people, the innocence of mental ill. White people are not innocent in this. No. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, a transgender, a bigender, a bisexual, a homosexual. If you got 3 legs, 4 legs, 5 legs, or no legs, you are a colonizer and you benefit off of the backs of African and colonized people. And then you gentrify our neighborhoods. You push your poor and mentally ill white people into our neighborhoods, and you think they're not going to get the brunt of our aggression, the brunt of our anger? While you are colonizing and gentrifying our neighborhoods, making the price of food and living go higher where we can't even live in our own neighborhoods. That's who this white man was in the south side of Chicago. Jesse, can you tell them about the facts of the matter of all the things that are going on in Chicago and around the world that is torture of African people, that Barack Obama did not come up and say it's despicable, it needs to be overturned, he needs to do anything about it. It's despicable and overturned, but what is the torture that he's doing to African and colonized people every day? Bombing them, sending drones on them, poisoning their water supplies. Because what happened in Flint, Michigan, they practice that on Africa. They practice that in the Middle East, okay?
Yes. I mean, I would recommend people look up the name John Burge. John Burge was a Chicago police commander who personally oversaw the torture of over 200 African people between 1972 and 1991, including a 13-year-old named Marcus Wiggins. Nobody knows the name of Marcus Wiggins, but everybody in this country has seen this video of this white guy in the bathtub. This is the real torture that's happening. And we also just want to mention the conditions of the African working class in Chicago. That the recent statistics say about 274,000 people, 10% of the city's population, lives at less than half of the federal poverty line, which means that their annual income is a total of $5,885 per individual, and with African families earning $12,000 per family. So this is the deep poverty, colonial poverty, that African people are forced into in Chicago, pushed up against the wall, and tortured, brutalized, arrested, attacked. And it's only natural that a colonized African community would lash out, would strike back. at someone, and why not a white person? And because of our history of complicity, until us white people turn our backs on the state, break our allegiance to the state, and stand for white solidarity with black power, and get under the leadership of the African liberation movement that's fighting to end this shit altogether, then we are the state. And we're fair targets when African people rise up and resist. So Uhuru Solidarity Movement is the solution. That's where every white person who wants to be on the right side of history needs to be.
Uhuru. And I just want to say, shame on any African leader who is, shaming these African teenagers, who is criticizing these African teenagers, who is talking shit on these African teenagers, who's talking ill on these African teenagers. Shame on you, because you don't understand the true colonial relationship that African people have with white people. Shame on you. You are not a leader of African people. So shut your fucking mouth up, Black Lives Matter. Shut your fucking mouth up, Jesse Jackson. Shut your fucking mouth up, Al Sharpton. Shut your fucking mouth up, D-Ray McKesson, and you 3 black girls that found Black Lives Matter. Shut your fucking mouth up. You ain't never spoke for motherfucking black people. And that's why you jump in at the helm to talk shit about these 4 poor working class people that did this. Those same 4 poor working class people, those same poor working class African people that did this to this white man, them the ones that's going to be on the front lines of the revolution. Them the ones that were in Ferguson busting the heads of the pigs and cops. Those are the ones that gave you the platform to build Black Lives Matter and have the millions and get hundreds of millions of dollars from Ford Foundation. That's who you're talking ill will against. So you can shut the fuck up. The people we should be ashamed of is the ones that are making hundreds of millions of dollars off of the oppression of African people, living in mansions and condos in Manhattan. Yeah, know where you live too, heifer. Living in all these wealthy places in DC and Virginia. Okay, it's shame on you. It's not shame on them. Okay, and now you have this illegitimate government that is going to sentence them to years, maybe a life in prison. A life in prison for doing what? For scratching up some white man, putting him in a tub for a little bit and putting him on live and then releasing him? At least he's alive. At least he's alive. There's hundreds, thousands, and millions of African people that can't say the same. So you want to talk about torture? You want to talk about torture? Talk about my uncle who was in prison for 11 years. And when he came out, he didn't even survive 6 months because of the mental illness and mental abuse that this white nationalist imperialist government put on him. And he committed suicide. You want to talk about torture? Akwabia, Uhuru. I don't want to make this a long video because I know y'all can't handle long videos. So I want this video to be shareable. So we're going to end it right here. I just want to say Uhuru, and to all my African people that are struggling to get on the right side of the question, go to apspuhuru.org and sign up and join the party. Click join, read about the party at apspuhuru.org. Join the revolution. Make joining the revolution your New Year's resolution. And if you are white and struggling to be on the right side of the question,
UhuruSolidarity.org. Join, pay reparations to African people.
Yes. And also make sure to meet us. No, don't meet us there. Beat us there at the Black is Back Convention, Rally and March on January 14th. Go to blackisbackcoalition.org to learn about it, to meet us there. Meet us there. Do not go to freaking Al Sharpton's BS thing. He is part of COINTELPRO that murdered and assassinated the real African Liberation Army, the real African liberation leaders and revolutionary leaders today. And that's why African people do not have direction today. But we have Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.